DVRT Master Instructor, back with another FarmStrong episode. Obviously, we're at the Haystack. We have a bale, and what we're going to talk about today is a couple components that revolve around really true, real-life functional strength, FarmStrong, being FarmStrong, and all those types of aspects. We obviously have some small bales here. These bales kind of bring to light a big component of the DVRT system, and that is dimension. These are very light bales. They're maybe 30 or 40 pounds. I should be able to pick this up easily with one hand and move it around. And if I wasn't going to do anything really dynamic with it, that'd probably be possible. But even if I wanted a farmer just walk it and grab a hold of both strings, it would still have the dimension would have a training effect on me. The second component we're going to talk about is what I call the FarmStrong press. We're big fans of going all the way vertical overhead pressing, but there's a function in that middle ground, and a lot of people love to bench press, which I don't really care for too much. But I think we may have found kind of a middle ground, a functional press. I'm going to call it the FarmStrong press. That kind of came to me when I was out loading some hay bales with my cousin in the field the other day. And it's a middle ground press where you have to get, for me, these bales loaded up in the back, and it's a very common practice on the farm to load bales on top of that level or load up to somebody else that's loading to a higher level. And so what the FarmStrong press does is it encompasses a component of a power clean and then a press that's about at shoulder level. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So I've got this bale with dimension. I could do it with a heavier bale, but these bales just happen to be light. So I'm going to come up and then I'm going to press out at about shoulder level. You'll see what I mean here. So I'm going to go here and then load up as such. Well, awesome. Awesome if you happen to live out on the farm in the middle of Wyoming and have maybe a few hundred or maybe 1,000 hay bales to use. But you'll see from the other video, we've got a USB. Real simple. Hand positioning is different. Hand positioning is actually better with the USB because we're in that overhand grip with the hay bale. Even so, with the light load and the hand positioning kind of equals things out. But with the USB, here we go. We're coming up to about chest level and then a press out into the FarmStrong press. So setting up in a good clean, up, and there we go. So we get to express a little bit of a press, very safe press, especially with those NutriGrip handles on the USB, and also express that kind of power clean, whatever. So there you have it, another episode from FarmStrong, coming to you from the Haystack, talking about the FarmStrong press. Hey crew, welcome back to FarmStrong. Working on a little concept that I'm going to call the FarmStrong press. It's not really a true press, but this kind of came out of, and that's just the way things are here. I was dropped off my daughter, my cousin called me when I was on the way home before I had to go to work, and he needed a hand. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll stop by for a little bit. A little bit always turns into a little bit longer here. So, but what struck me is, and I'll give you a more comparable video, but I wanted to get this out to you initially. So we're going to call this the FarmStrong press. It's not really a true press, but it's kind of that middle ground. If you've seen people load stones maybe, if you've seen people load hay bales, sometimes you get into loading hay bales where you're not really going overhead with it, but you're going up and out. That's someplace higher than chest level. This tire is kind of a representation of that. What happened when my cousin called me is we're going to move some gated pipe, which I posted on the Instagram FarmStrong Friday last week, but what we were doing is this week we were moving some pipe, but there's some small bales in the field. And for those of you that don't know, and I'll explain in a later video, small bales weigh between 50 and 100 pounds. And so we need to pick them up, and usually they start to stack up, if you can kind of imagine playing with Legos. So we were loading these into the back of the pickup, which is already somewhere around waist high, and they start to stack up, and sometimes you're around chest or head high. So that's kind of where the FarmStrong press, or at least the idea for the FarmStrong press, comes from. So if we kind of project that into our ultimate sandbag training, here we go, right? We're going to clean this, and then we can kind of just, that's kind of what it looks like with the bale, right? Clean to fist, put it to a high level place, right? Pull it back off. So obviously, it's not as, you're not just releasing it with as you would with a bale, but it's kind of a concept that's not really a complete press, but it's getting an object over from one place to another. You could use a lot of different things for this. I just happen to have the tire here. I'm going to work on scaling this concept of the FarmStrong press out, but there's a power component to it. This doesn't mean by any means that you shouldn't have the mobility, the strength, or the capability to go into that vertical position. It's just a concept that's very, very useful thing to be able to take an item from ground level to bring it roughly around shoulder head level and then express some power with it. So that's the concept of the FarmStrong press, using a simple tire and the DVRT Ultimate Sandbag. So there you have it. See you on the other side.